In the next 10 minutes, I'll give you clarity on whether tech sales can make you wealthy and how to make sure it does. Let's do it. I Googled what is tech sales and I didn't like what I saw. It was information, not clarity. And there's a big difference between the two. Information is a list of facts. Clarity lets you actually make decisions. Now, when most people ask what is tech sales, they get a list like software or hardware you're selling. There's a career ladder, and then you can make six figure with no degree. While it's true, it is useless. See definitions as lenses that you put on to understand the world, to look at reality. And this worldview is terrible. It's shit. You cannot do much with it. What I want to do today is provide you with an alternative worldview to look at tech sales in a way that is empowering. That's understanding. For example, my definition of tech sales is the highest probability chance to get rich in 2026, but it's just information. Why is that the case? And this is what I want to basically help you understand so you can grasp basically that opportunity to decide if it's for you or not. The understanding is this: sales, tech sales, or any sales really boils down to one thing and one thing only, okay? You get paid roughly 20% of what you kill, 20% of the total revenue generated. And total revenue is just three components multiplied together. It's volumes of deals, average deal size, and conversion rate. That's it. That's the game. Now, when you actually are able to break down what is tech sales into a formula, you get three components. And in order to maximize this, all you need to do is maximize each of those components, each of those levers. And this is exactly what this video is going to be about. And doing those things is what makes essentially tech sales the highest chance probability to get rich in 2026. Without it, it's just a job with a career ladder where some people make money. Let's get into it. So the first thing first is the total volume of deals. When you are in sales, what you want is multiple shots on target. And you want multiple shots on target for different reasons. One is you want to be able to learn. As you learn, you need to burn through some opportunities to learn the ropes. It's part of of it. That's one. Second is once you actually hone the craft, is you want to have enough opportunity to pursue to ROI everything that you learn. So in a nutshell, you want a large addressable market. And there are pockets of money or maybe niches where there is more shots on targets than others. And the whole idea is how do you get extremely clear in terms of what are those? It's very easy. What you need is a map. In order to find the places with the maximum volumes of deals, what you want to do is just follow the money. Simple as that. To do so, we use something called GICS. It's a classification of the US economy, and it's breaking it down by sector, industry, and then sub-industry. What I'm trying to say here, and I'm going to say it for the third time, but just because I wanted to beat a dead horse, but I just want this to come across, is there are specific bets that are more likely to set you up for success, depending on what you're selling, because you could be selling anything. And in order to find those things, what I like to do, what I did is I simply took the S&P 500, which is a good representation of the 500 biggest companies in terms of market cap in the US across all sectors. And then I looked, how was that money distributed within that S&P 500? Where was it coming from? Okay, so the flows of money. And here's what I found. Okay, so you got energy, materials. When it comes to the sector, first of all, what you can see is that the number one sector where most of the money is flowing, where investors are throwing their money and that is generating the biggest returns, is essentially information technology. That's IT. So the most money is being poured in IT. The second is financials, which makes sense. And sales in this world, transactions are typically M&As. And then you got basically industrial, which is to sell caterpillars. What I'm trying to say is just at a macro level, there are sectors that are more likely to set you up for success. And the number one is tech. So this is why I keep hammering down tech sales. We just answered not why tech sales specifically. It's because there's the most money, the most transactions happening. You want to be leading those transactions. Then what you do is you want to kind of follow the GICS, this graph, and you want to keep count of the trail of money and see basically how it's split between the other subcategories. And you want to do it all the way to the end. And what ends up happening is, surprise, surprise, software is actually where most of the money is flowing into the economy. And if you continue going down the rabbit hole, there's niches. There are some niches that are better than others. And this I will do in a separate video. The point is, when I'm just showing you all of these things is, again, you want to be at the crossroad. You want to be at the junction of the money. So follow the trail of money is the first thing you want to do to maximize deals so that you can, that will flywheel, your whole career. So that's one. By the way, if you're already thinking about making the switch and want to land a role at a company that isn't a complete circus, click the first link in the description. I've got something for you. But first, knowing where the money is flowing is only one piece. Let me show you the second lever that separates six figures earner from everyone else. The second thing basically that you want is average deal size. I want to contrast it with what the typical person actually seeks. The usual person, or most of my clients, what they're interested in when I ask them about their sales career, they tell me about job title. There's a trick with job titles. Some companies have SMBAEs, account executives, for example, that have like deal size of 50K. And then some other ones, this is MuleSoft, for example. Then there's other companies like, for example, Sage 50, they have account executives and their deal size are 3K. Okay, same job title, radically different complexity. And I want to show you just what is the impact of different deal size on your earning, how much you bring to the company, and essentially how much you generate for yourself. And for that, we're going to use a real example. Okay, let's check small deal David, whose average deal size is 10K, and big deal Ben, whose average deal size is 100K. And let's assume that both work 2,000 hours per year. You're not able to say, just with that data, how much they clear for themselves or for the company. Because yeah, sure, this might be selling a lot and this one takes longer to sell. So what we want to do is use a simulation, and we're going to use some real numbers, okay? From a real scenario. So small deal David, big deal Ben here. Average deal size, the time per deal here is going to be 10 hours. The time per deal in the case of Ben is going to be 3x harder. Okay, we're going to assume it's going to be 30 hours. So that means that over the course of 1 year, okay, small deal David is going to be closing 200 deals for a total of 2 M's. And Ben, 66 for 6.6 M. This is where the big difference lies. You see, there is essentially a 3x difference. And in sales, the whole point basically of sales is to maximize the return on every hour that you put on the job. And the quickest way to essentially do this without burning out, giving up anything in your life, is to simply get someone to trust you with bigger deals. You will work the exact same amount of hours, but one will pay you disproportionately more than the other. And the lesson, if I had to just put it bluntly, is like Ben closes 1/3 of David's deal, but he generates again 3.5x more revenue. And a 10x larger deal doesn't take 10x more efforts. That's the arbitrage. That's the leverage that a lot of sales professionals, even people that are not in the profession, people that are in the profession, don't necessarily realize. And that's why they keep chasing job titles as opposed to average deal size. This arbitrage you see here is what allows certain reps to clear like 200K, 300K, up to $1 million while working 40 hours or less. And what I'm trying to say here is the prime metric, the North Star metric you want to have for the rest of your career is really just trying to chase growing your average deal size year over year. And you want to be very vocal about it, even with your manager and your director. And you want to say within the lines of, to grow my impact on the company, I need to further my impact on the top revenue line. And the fastest way to do that is to grow my average deal size. So use that to your advantage. And it makes sense, and people will appreciate that. So focus on the right things, and this is basically the second thing that you want to be focused on. The third is the conversion rate. Here, the big mistake, again, that people make is when they think about the conversion rate, they think about theirs, at their level, at the sales rep level, when in fact, there is a conversion rate that is much more important and will dictate much more your success, which is the conversion rate at a company level. This is why it's important to focus on that before you focus on this. You absolutely need, performance is paramount in this profession. You need to invest in you, and learn to become really good at the skills. But the reality, and you can ask any veteran in the industry, is skills is kind of like a second, third order effect. There are things that you want to basically decide in advance that will always set you up 80% to where you need to be. The last 20% is, the work that you'll do at the end. The question becomes okay, well, how do I evaluate conversion rate, for a company? How do I know that one has a big number? Because you want to obviously maximize this metric. Well, there's a few proxies that you can look at. The first one is the year-over-year revenue growth. If a company is growing fast, it means that it's selling a lot. It means that it's converting, winning market share and converting more than its competitors. That's a healthy sign, growth. The second is brand equity. You can, just because you have Google slapped on the back of your jacket, you will literally have clients line up, put their money in front of your face, check my money kind of situation. And it would be unreasonable not to recognize that you need to be working for a top 3 player for any industry. Whatever is your industry, you want to be in the top 5, ideally top 3. Otherwise, you're massive or you're playing from behind. This is why like startup as are no-go, unless you have a decade of experience, which is, again, something I'll discuss in the future. The third component is sales and enablement. Okay, you can go on a company and basically look at the track record. You can look for sales engineers and see like how many does the team have, like how long they've been there. You can also think about maybe like if a company is growing fast, another byproduct of that is marketing budgets. Or if it's a top player, like a byproduct of those two things, it means that the company has money to invest into marketing to acquire customers and bring you fresh leads to close. They can even hire BDRs to help you with the lead gen. Also, like the sales engineer, like there are other people that are involved in your deals that will support them so they can close faster. Those are like, for example, again, sales engineer, account manager, just like at the pedigree of the people, how long they've been there at the company. You just search for them on LinkedIn and look at their tenure. And what you want to see something in ideally like 3 years and above. The fourth and last proxy, for evaluating conversion rate, at a company level is you want to make sure that the company has an enterprise product suite that is winning. Okay, because it's one thing to be winning its market, but it's another to be doing it at the biggest deal size. Because remember, this is what we're trying to do, because we're trying to maximize how much we get paid for every hour we put into the work. So you need to make sure that the company has an enterprise product suite, and most of its revenue is coming from enterprise clients. And the way you do that is you can go on the company website, and there's usually a testimonial section, and you just want to make sure that there's some big names on that. Then when you have maximized those things, first of all, you will realize that you can close actually a lot of deals. Like it's very easy. You don't need like extensive training. But if you want to kind of break into the top 20% within those top 20, basically firms that you've identified following, by maximizing those 3 levers, then here's what you want to do. First thing is you want to obviously rub elbows. By joining a great company, you're going to be rubbing elbows with apex predators, with like top tier talent pool that will take you under their wings and show you how it's done. The cool thing with companies that are growing fast, that have tons of brand equity, that is winning over their market, is that they can afford to buy premium talent. And this, again, will benefit you. The second thing is self-education to maximize your conversion rate. And for that, there's a few things, and 2 really comes to mind. The first one is frame control. Especially this is more relevant to the account executive. I've read many books and I've bought courses, and what I will say is like no one has contributed more to improving my personal conversion rate on the deals that I made, because I'm an enterprise AE myself, than essentially Bochai Sales Guy material. So I suggest you to go on X and read his free material. Check out also his free newsletter. And, if you feel like you want to know more, check out his paid stuff. It's totally worth it. I'm not an affiliate. I'm just telling you what has worked for me so that you can go as fast as possible. The other piece, this is more for BDRs that are trying to find leads and book meetings for AEs, is buying triggers. If you don't know what these are or how to use them, there is essentially technology that today allows you very easily to find hot leads, ripe, low-hanging fruits for whatever company. And someone who's doing a good job at this, his name is Fidel Cashflow, and I suggest he does mostly BDR stacking. But anyways, he also talks a bit about buying triggers that I think it will be very useful for some of you. That's it for the self-education. So to recap, the conclusion here is, what is tech sales? So I want you to just forget the generic definitions, okay? Tech sales is a compensation structure. It's almost like a business model that gets you paid 20% of what you generate. It is a formula, okay? It's volume times deal size times conversion rate. And it's a bet that by positioning yourself where the most money flows, selling the largest deals possible at a company that's already winning those deals, well, you give yourself the highest probability of building real wealth, much more than just going straight into doubling down on this self-education material. That's what tech sales actually is. It's not about selling software. It's not about climbing a career ladder. It's a vehicle. And now, hopefully, you know how to drive it. If you want to learn how to actually, land one of those roles at a company that will set you up for life, where things are just rigged for your success, you can also click the first link in the description. I'll show you how the system works. And yeah, I'll see you over there.